Hello YouTube! So I've just finished rewatching Good Luck Charlie for kind of the first time since it's aired. Like I've watched some episodes here and there. I've watched a Christmas movie, but it's my first time going back watching it in full since it was on TV. But I've always held this show in high regards and my rewatch confirmed that. I think Good Luck Charlie might just be the greatest sitcom ever made. This show took the nuclear family at a time where we'd had so many good sitcoms already made, so many good Disney Channel sitcoms already made. And they went back to basics and really just perfected the formula and made sure everything in this show was fine-tuned. I think in some ways, Good Luck Charlie could be considered the last truly great show of Disney Channel's run. That's not a debate I'm gonna get into today, but I think there's a case for that. Good Luck Charlie is, for the most part, your basic sitcom, but it's got the one shtick to make it stick out, which is making video diaries for the younger child who comes later on in the family as sort of a surprise child, just shaking up the dynamics of what's usually a pretty established 3 children, mother, father. Our main character is Teddy Duncan, and she's played by Bridget Mendler, who is an icon of our time. I think she's an all-time Disney star, and she's got some of the best music ever made. Good Luck Charlie was an ensemble, but Bridget Mendler was the first name marketed. She was just coming off of the Wizards of Waverly Place too, where she had a popular recurring role. She was our main topic here. And she's the one who recorded the video diaries for Charlie. But I thought she was very lovely, very rootable. She was our calm amidst the chaos of the Duncan household. But she had her little quirks here and there. Also, we just have to mention her room. That's got to be like the best Disney Channel set ever. The raised bed, oh my gosh, I was obsessed. I mean, I think this show in general has some of the best set design I've seen in a sitcom. I am also very struck by the chalkboard refrigerator, and I always love to peek in on every episode and see what details it said. They really changed it every episode, and they throw in some fun little Easter eggs on it too. And Teddy, she was our high school girl. She narrates the episode in ways. We mostly see Teddy in her family life. We'd see her hanging out with Ivy and her other high school friends, and her dating life, which was a mess. Like, Spencer, oh my gosh, one of the worst men to ever exist in fiction. Literally cheated on her season 1, yet he still stuck around. And the show, like, wanted them to end together. I thought they gave that a little too much focus at the end of the show, but whatever. I'll get over it. I don't want them to end together. No. It's her endgame for the show, but I know in my spirit, Teddy dumped him a week into college, and I support it. There's all sorts of like behind the scenes drama about that breakup too, which, oh my gosh, Bridget Mendler, we need to defend her. But yeah, I absolutely adore Teddy. I think she is the main character. I don't always like a main character, but I loved Teddy. Okay, I have to talk about Ivy. Oh my gosh, she is one of the 2 scene-stealing recurring guests on the show. I just adored every line she delivered. She had such amazing comedic timing. She is like our token Black friend, which is a terrible trope. Absolutely. But I can't deny that Ivy stole every scene she was in. It was always a delight to see her character show up. And her and Teddy's friendship, it was very sweet. They'd have a lot of fun together. And I mean, sometimes Teddy put Ivy through it, but Ivy would call her on it. She was good about that. I also have to mention Ivy's parents, particularly Mary Jo, who I think is so funny, and how they bounce between Ivy being very over the top, dramatic, to Mary Jo loves being bland and boring, but it's so entertaining how she does it. My favorite episode of the show was probably the episode where Amy and Mary Lou teamed up and went to go get Teddy and Ivy away from the party. That was such a fun little team up. And those two, like, they feuded a bit, Mary Lou and Amy. But I liked their friendship. Ivy's dad, he was also very funny, and he got more unhinged as the seasons went on in ways. Oh, but I loved getting more focus on them. And Ivy, she had the penultimate episode of the show really focusing on her going to college, and I'm glad she got to have her own little moment to shine. She really was a key figure in Good Luck Charlie, so respect to her. Okay, I'm ready to talk about Amy Duncan. She was our scene stealer of this show. She was kind of the star of the show. I can't even deny it. Amy was the best character. She was our mom. She brought the chaos at every turn. She's a mom who wants the spotlight and she wants to shine, and that's all she really cares about at the end of the day. Though she does love her family. She'll betray them to get some camera time though. You count on that. The most telling thing about Amy is they had her feuding with Miss Piggy. It was the ultimate diva off. And if you're feuding with Miss Piggy, you know you're iconic. You know Miss Piggy's a little scared. Like, she feels a threat in her midst. That Muppets crossover episode though, like, that was so funny. Amy, she's just so quotable and entertaining, and she's also endearing. Well, bam! The comedic timing Amy Duncan has, unmatched. I just love how every time a camera was around, she would go to it and she would get her news reporter voice on. I also do love that she ended up getting a job working in the news full time, and that's how they ended her storyline. I think that's very lovely. We saw her quit her nursing job. Her brand of crazy kind of fits in with the infamous nurses, but her calling is to be on camera. Let's get Amy Duncan on a Real Housewives show. Like, that could have been a great ending for her too. Maybe she's building up to that. Maybe that's what happens after. But I think Amy Duncan is an all-time character. She's so iconic. She's got so many good moments. Speaking of the Good Luck Charlie Christmas movie, that alone shows how crucial Amy is to this show, and how the best dynamic in the show was Amy and Teddy. They were the heart of the show, and they were absolutely the best characters of the show. Moving on, I'll talk about the dad of the family, Bob Duncan. He was never my favorite as a child, just because how can he be my favorite when you've got the flashy Amy Duncan doing everything at all times? But I appreciated him a lot more on this rewatch. I do think at times I would see Bob in a storyline and I'd be like, okay, this is gonna be our more boring storyline of the episode. But that wasn't always the case. He's your typical dad in a lot of ways. Like, he had the running gag of he didn't really listen a lot, and that's annoying. So when him and Amy would bicker sometimes, I would side with Amy a little bit. But Bob has a bit more agency in that, because sometimes the sitcom wives are not as strong as Amy is. But Amy, she's got her wild side, so you could side more with Bob, when typically I think the sitcom dad just looks terrible. No, Bob, he had his moments, but I'd say in general he was able to keep his head high and still have a good reputation as a father and as a husband. I do like him and Amy as a couple. He had a lot of good gags as an exterminator, and he could get over the top more. He wasn't the most over the top character. Not everybody can be, but he was as wacky as every other Duncan besides Teddy. He also has some of the better comedic timing in the show. Like, they do a lot of food jokes. Some of them were kind of at the expense of Bob, and I'm like, this is a really low blow. But I know that was also kind of more of the humor of the time, to be fair. I remember this one gag where PJ was like, oh, I'm gonna be cooking something wrapped in bacon. And as soon as he said bacon, Bob's like, oh, that sounds great. And he'd have like subtle moments like that where I'm like, Bob Duncan, you are funny. And while Amy was never portrayed as a bad mom, sometimes Bob had his moments where he was portrayed as a bit of a bad dad. Like, he would forget stuff. He dropped the babies. Did he drop all the babies? I mean, we know he dropped Charlie and Toby because we saw that play out. But I bet you he dropped the other ones too and we just didn't see it. Oh my gosh. Of all the sitcom dads, Bob is probably the one I've liked the most. And the sitcom dads are never going to be my favorite character, so that is high praise coming from me. Next, I'll talk about PJ. He was the oldest child. His whole thing was being nice and dumb. And I think he's the weakest character of the show. He had a bit more intrigue at the start of the show. Like, they gave him some dating storylines. He has the whole thing with Skylar, who I don't really care for that much at all. But even in the early seasons, when I'd see a big PJ focus incoming, I'd be like, oh, okay. It's fine to watch, but it's not the best this show has to offer. He held his own, but when I think of a lot of my favorite moments of the show, I'm not really thinking of PJ moments where he's forgetting to do stuff and he doesn't know what certain things are. It's just kind of tired. As the show went on, more and more, they kind of leaned into him being dumb, and that was his only joke, really. In season 3, PJ moved out with Emmett, who Emmett was fine, but he was no Ivy, so I'm not going to talk about him too much. PJ moved out with Emmett, and that kind of shook things up, but it was still like, okay, oh, we gotta go see PJ at his apartment. Ugh. The one thing he had is they gave him a passion for cooking. That was nice to see play out. Like, okay, we got a win for PJ. He can't think to save his life, but he can look at some ingredients and throw together some food. Good. You've got something to look forward to in life. I think that's a good trajectory from him, though. He started out working in fast food, then he ended up owning a food truck. Good for you. And he owns it with Bob, too. My least favorite parts of the show were when they'd pair up Bob and PJ. I think those were always the most boring storylines to me. Oh, just kind of a drag. But they have nice chemistry. I see the appeal in giving the father and the oldest child, especially a son, more of that attention, because that is a special bond in a family. But it doesn't excite me very much, I'll be honest. They had their moments, but usually I could count on those to be weaker than other moments. Now I have to talk about Gabe Duncan, our resident troublemaker child. He's like the middle child. He was in his own age range. He was like 10 to 12. He's the mischievous younger boy. That's always a very entertaining trope. I think Gabe in particular is one of the more entertaining of that trope, I will say. We really saw him cause some commotion and be a bit of a wild card in the house. Of everybody and their reactions to Charlie, Gabe is the one who really didn't care for Charlie that much. Didn't hate her, just didn't want to be involved at all. I thought that was always an intriguing angle, like when they'd ask him to babysit and he'd be like, oh no, I'm not doing that. You could always count on Gabe to start a problem and cause chaos in the show. Now, Gabe was a little more intriguing when Toby came around because he actually liked Toby. And I like seeing that angle more. Like, okay, yeah, sure, maybe he'd connect more with the boy child. And playing on that, especially in the episode where Gabe took over the video diary and was good fortune's Toby. I liked how that paralleled Teddy. That was an interesting through line. Because I think Teddy and Gabe, of everybody in the family, I feel like they kind of interacted the least. But I feel like they really did parallel each other more than any's. Like Teddy was the poster child of being good, being smart, being everything, while Gabe was, we're causing problems here. They were worked as like polar opposites. But the best of the best when it came to Gabe is his dynamic with Mrs. Dabney, the other scene-stealing recurring star on the show, her and Ivy. They are two of the best characters of all time. I just love Mrs. Dabney, the recurring neighbor who would pop in, cause problems, hate everybody, but you knew deep down she loved the Duncan family. She loved hating on them. It gave her something to live for. This was a legendary rivalry. It lives up to the hype. We saw them really put each other through it. I could have watched it every episode, watching these two just bicker. And by the end of the show, we saw them have a mutual respect. They would have a few times where they would pair up, a mutual enemy would cause them to link forces. And at the end of the show, Gabe was dating Mrs. Dabney's granddaughter. Like, that's a plot twist. I don't really care for the Gabe dating storyline. That was uninteresting to me. But how it brought him and Mrs. Dabney together, that was interesting. I'm just never quite the fan of a dating storyline, honestly. I don't think. They're lazy. They feel very, very phoned in. But whatever. It wasn't taking joy out of the show. It gave me some good moments. But not because of the dating itself, because of how it changed dynamics. One of my favorite things about Gabe is how he and Amy kind of played off each other. A lot of the times, he would fear Amy because Amy, she always caught on to any sort of antics or schemes that her children had going on. And if they were minor, she'd just go along with it and she'd be like, keep me uninvolved. My favorite was when PJ and Gabe, they swapped out the living room couch and Amy played along. She was teasing him like, oh, what's wrong in here? And she like moved a statue. But then as she's walking away, she's like, you're lucky I hated that couch anyway. Oh, Gabe was scared of Amy, and as he should be. That was a fun dynamic. They really bounced off each other well. I guess now I should discuss the name of the show, Charlie. She started off as a baby, and in the first like 2 seasons, I don't think she was as much of a character on her own. She was just like this ominous baby figure who would move around as needed, didn't have moments. But as the show went on and as this actress was able to speak more, they gave her a bit more to do. And by the last season, she's got like her own rivalry with Toby and she's getting involved in the plot lines more. That was a nice development. Like we really got to see Charlie grow up a little bit. It was sweet. There's not much for me to say, but her existence added a fun wrinkle to the show. And I loved how they would use her in the end scenes for this show. They always had off the chain end scenes. There was one time where they had her spoof being a ninja and she was fighting Gabe's bully in the classroom. Or they do off the rails stuff, and a lot of it would revolve around Charlie. Always a good gag. But I mean, who doesn't love Charlie? She's fantastic. Last but not least, though, is Toby. We first get the tease of a pregnancy in the Christmas movie. I was excited as a kid because anything flashy and new they threw at me, I was like, oh yeah, give it to me. Now, I feel like it threw off the show a little bit. I'm like, we didn't really need this. They had a whole pregnancy storyline for Amy, but then after Toby was born, he was kind of a non-factor in the show. He didn't bring much of a dynamic shift, which I'm fine with. But I'm like, why do we do this? In the last season, I guess they had it a little more with Charlie kind of having a feud with him. But overall, I think Toby was a useless addition to the show. He never popped like Charlie did. I don't think they utilized him properly. but he didn't take away from the show either, and that's really all I can ask. I think that's all I've got to say on Good Luck Charlie for now. I've not really talked about like sitcoms much on this channel, so I wasn't sure how this was gonna go, but I had a lot of fun with it. Maybe that's just because Good Luck Charlie is so fantastic. But I could see myself unpacking some other Disney shows. I could talk about Good Luck Charlie again in one way, shape, or form. I'm already itching to rewatch it, but I'm gonna give it some time. So until next time, stay tuned. Bye!